They hurt jobs. They are inflationary.
I'm Charles Dulatesma.
Rivers rose and flooding worsened across.
It hasn't quite made it in the house as far as I know, but if it keeps raining like this, it'll probably flood his house out.
Trump said he'll support former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu if Sununu decides to run for New Hampshire's open Senate seat.
I told him, he came to my office, came to the Oval Office and met with Chris Sununu, and I support him fully. I hope he runs. He's been very nice to me over the last year or so, but no, I hope he runs. I think he'll win that seat.
A second child has died in the West Texas measles outbreak. This is AP News. The Blue Bloods of women's college basketball have returned to the throne.
Second-seeded Connecticut clinched its record 12th national championship in basketball with an 82-59 win over number 1 seed and defending national champion South Carolina. Huskies coach Gino Auriemma.
If we were going to lose, it would have been before now. I don't think the basketball gods would take us all the way to the end. They've been really cruel.
Sarah Strong had 24 points and 15 rebounds. AZ Fudd added 24 points, and Paige Becker scored 17 to claim her first championship.
We're both playing for a national championship. I think that's the only motivation that you needed on both sides. So we just try to come out and play every possession that it's the most important possession of the season, serve the moment.
Joyce Edwards and Chloe Kitts scored 10 apiece to lead the Gamecocks, who were denied their 4th NCAA title game win in as many appearances. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh. I'm
Haya Panjwani, AP.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered areas of rain and snow mixing at times here for today, then becoming all snow late. With cloudy skies, temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Breezy north winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow, cloudy, and a low around 25. By Tuesday, sunshine, high 42. Wednesday, chance for rain and snow mixing early, then becoming all rain, high 43. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 39.
Welcome to The Inclusive Voice with your host, Pam McElvain. Get some coffee, and here we have our leaders and trailblazers this morning that we're going to have a conversation once again about impactful change. We've come so far with race and racism in America, but we have so much further to go when you think about some of the racial incidents that we witnessed in our country, like slavery, civil rights, to the death of George Floyd and so many others.
The Inclusive Voice with Pam McElvain. Saturday at 7 a.m.
Save big money on your next staining project right now at Menards. Pittsburgh's ultra-advanced semi-transparent exterior stain and sealant in one can be applied on damp wood, allowing you to clean the surface and stain in one day. Save big on ultra-advanced exterior stain and sealant. And don't forget to check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives. And yes, welcome to the April 7th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. As we say, email me at richard@wcpt820.com. I got some great emails this weekend, and we're able to get back with some folks. Catch me on Substack, and also catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views short version and long version. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The big picture with Edwin Eisendrath, and of course Out Chicago and our other shows and interviews. Check out our HeartlandSignal.com digital platform. and you better share some of the good stuff that's there. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this hour. Happy Monday to everybody. It's this first full week of April 2025, and I hope that the weekend was good for folks and you got out, if you're here in Chicago, and did some stuff. The weather held up pretty well. I don't know what that's going to be like this week. Devin and I were just grousing about snow. No, it can't snow. But no, Devin said no, Richard. Didn't say snow, said wintry mix. So I don't want to put something out there that Devin didn't actually say for all the, the gremlins out there. But it's April 7th, so we're on our way to better weather, even though we may be, working through a wintry mix today, whatever that's going to mean. But that being said, as I just said, I hope everybody had a good weekend and you were able to take advantage of the good weather that we had here in the Chicagoland area. And for those who are other parts of the country that are listening, I hope you had a good weekend as well. And I say that without any head in the sand, or you guys know I'm not one to walk around with blinders on about what's happened and happening as it relates to these tariffs from Donald Trump. These are not American tariffs to all of our brothers and sisters throughout the rest of the world and our allies. These are not American tariffs. These are Donald Trump tariffs. Let's just be plain and simple about that. I'm tired of people going, with the American. No, this is what Donald Trump is doing, and that needs to be leaned into and talked about more often than, the American system right now. Bless you, Devin. He had a big sneeze there. Scared me. Thought somebody walked in the room. But these are Donald Trump's tariffs, and Donald Trump and his administration have to be held accountable for the destruction. There is no the question that I'm going to ask, and repeatedly ask this question, is where are we going with this? And I know a lot of people want to know that answer. What's the end game? So I'll get to that in a little bit. But today's show, we will have as guests in our 7 o'clock hour, John McCabe, who's a director of resource management at the Forest Preserves of Cook County. I love our county, our county forest preserves and all that they mean to the area. John and I are going to talk a little bit about something that's going on regarding an environmental concern that I'm sure you guys will be. It'll be important for you to hear. And then Mike Nellis, strategist, will be with us in the 7:30 hour, talking about all that's strategic and political right now. So looking forward to chatting with him. Tomorrow we'll have a commissioner from the mayor's office talking about some of the new construction that's going on with the city, and on the heels of the mayor being on last Friday. And then Indy Almanord will be with us, who's a campaign director of Healthy Illinois. So a little bit of environmental conversation, a little bit of what's going on in the city of Chicago, and a little bit about what's happening with some of our health concerns. So just to let you guys know, and then through the course of the week, we'll have a little bit of surprise taking place that I'll let you guys know about tomorrow. Make sure you send me a text if you can't call in. I know lots of folks have been really taking advantage of our text groove, and we like that. We can respond to you that way, and give us a call. Speaking of last week with Mayor Johnson on, lots of really good feedback. And, I know there are people out there that want me to, it's interesting, Devin, people will say, you need to ask him, these hard, really, tough questions. And I get that. But we also have to recognize that this is not the Gotcha Network. This is, let's have a conversation. Let's not do what everybody else does. And let's put the mayor in a position to succeed. And by asking him questions, and all of our guests, whether it be Stacey Davis Gates with the CTU, Pat Devaney, who is part of the Illinois AFL-CIO, it's about getting them to talk about what they're working on, what's important to them, and how we're going to go about fixing things. So we had those conversations with State Senator Sarah Feigenholtz, our good friend Kurt Muller from True Blue Politics from Hoosier Blue 63. True Blue Politics Podcast is Karen Byrne, and I got to hang out with Karen and Anita this week in terms of their podcast. State Representative Carol Ammons, Kristen Krall, who was really a lightning rod in this conversation about balancing out some of our budgetary concerns and talking a little bit about what she sees with the Fair Share America. So we had really a wonderful opportunity to talk to some phenomenal people throughout the course of last week, and this week we'll be doing the same thing. So check out those check out our podcast and go to heartlandsignal.com if you want to catch those interviews again, and if you want to share them with folks who you think could benefit from what we're talking about. But I think we can get to a couple of Choose Views news on this Monday, April 7th. And we all know it, but stock market carnage erased $6 trillion. 6.4 is the actual number, capping a tumultuous two-day rout that erased a record $6.4 trillion in value because of the market sell-off that intensified last Friday. Selling accelerated as China vowed to impose tariffs on U.S. goods, overshadowing a stronger than expected jobs report. Did you hear that? Stronger than expected jobs report was overshadowed by Trump's tariffs, not U.S. tariffs, and the retaliation from other countries. The Dow plunged 2,230 points, or 5.5%, marking a 14% drop from its December peak. Friday's 6% decline in the S&P brings the index down by 10% in 2 days. So there you go, guys. Many people feel that we're entering a version of a bear market. I don't know what that version is, but that's how it's being reported. Jerome Powell on Friday said he thinks that Donald Trump's global reciprocal tariff campaign will continue to aggregate inflation and become a drag on the economic growth. So those two happening at the same time, ultimately, he said it's the Fed's job to make sure that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation problem. Powell added that the central bank will act deliberately, seeking greater clarity, quote, before adjusting monetary policy since the economy is still strong overall. And I have to comment on this real quickly. I watched on Friday some of the financial news channels, and one of the things that, to that end, about what Jerome Powell said is I saw so many people, financial people, bending themselves in pretzels trying to blame this on Jerome Powell for not adjusting interest rates, when in fact the trigger is Donald Trump's tariffs. So get real, financial reporters. This is not Jerome Powell's fault. Jerome Powell has to be prepared for the craziness initiated by Trump and these dumb tariffs. While many Americans are delaying major life decisions amid economic uncertainty, according to the Business Insider's tariffs are expected to drive up prices on everyday items from groceries to cars. Recession fears and student loan concerns are causing people to postpone buying homes and starting families. Others are putting off business ventures or career changes due to job insecurity. Some are even rethinking retirement plans. One Gen Xer isn't sure if she'll ever retire after losing thousands of dollars in the stock market just in 2 days. But hey, we keep winning, America. And this is an interesting one. British car maker Jaguar Land Rover, is suspending shipments of its cars to the United States in April in response to Trump's administration's 25% tariff on imports. While the company says the U.S. is an important market, quote, the pause will give it time to develop its mid to longer term plans. Those are words for when we get this fool out of office and then we can ramp things back up again. Exports to the U.S. account for nearly a quarter of Jaguar Land Rover sales. Meanwhile, Nissan reportedly may move some production of its cars from the U.S. market, from Japan to the United States. And managing money amid these high tariffs. The stock market turmoil sparked by the Donald Trump tariffs is forcing U.S. consumers, investors to reevaluate their personal finances and portfolios, according to Bloomberg. Experts suggest making big purchases like cars now to avoid prices that are going to be hiked and raised, while others advise waiting ahead of the possible recession. Many financial advisors recommend diversifying portfolios and staying calm because, as portfolio managers note, the world has changed. One financial planner advises being careful with borrowing, as high interest rates could stretch your budget. I actually had someone say to me the other day that in a conversation that they were told by a financial advisor to go out and borrow on some high value or high dollar goods right now. And I wasn't completely in the car with that conversation because it doesn't make a lot of sense. At the end of the day, as you could see, 4 out of the 6 items I just reported on were all about were really all 6 of them were about a decision to put this fool in office. So we'll take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we'll talk more about this fool in office and some of the things that I've got to say about it this morning. The number is 773-763-9278. We'll be taking your calls when we come back. I've got a question for you guys. This is Choose Views. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of 2 sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Welcome back, Progressives. Thanks for tuning in on this Monday, April 7, 2025, 773-763-9278. Looking forward to hearing from you this morning. So this weekend, there were a ton of protests all over the country in many areas, blue areas, purple areas, and red areas in terms of states as well as communities within states. Because not everybody voted in the red states for Donald Trump. They live there. That's where their lives and their families are. And moving isn't what they necessarily want to do. I mean, I know many, many, many good folk down in Florida that live in areas that are purple or blue. And that's true in every state in the country. So the protests took place in many, many parts of the country, as they should. And I'm proud that folks were able to get out and to speak their minds about what's happening. And hands off. One of the areas that I was particularly surprised with is Fort Wayne, Indiana. I mean, Fort Wayne is a somewhat progressive community. It's got some progressive leaders there in the local government in terms of what I know. And I spent a lot of time in Fort Wayne over the years. And it's an auto town, strong union town, and particularly smart and good folk there. I will say that. I have a handful of good colleagues and associates that live there and that I've worked with over the years. But I will admit, I was surprised, and this was one of the big clips, not clips, but videos that I saw over the weekend that highlighted a number of people in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that were out protesting. And I was actually like, okay, that to me is a little bit of a sign. I know my man Kurt Mullen will have something to say about that. He will have something to say about that ongoing and certainly this week. But yeah, the point of all this in terms of protests, I have 2 points I want to make. At least this morning. One of them is it's good to see people were out. And the other side of it is I want to answer a question that's on social media that I've gotten directly, both in email, I've gotten it, some text messages, I've gotten it in terms of what people have sent to me. That's the question is, Richard, or not specifically just me, but in general, about black folks saying they aren't going to show up at the protest. They're not protesting the protest. They're just not, en masse as in previous protesting prior to this election. Some of it's a safety issue. I've been asked this question. I've talked about it in brief. But I've been asked this question generally, or the question I should say has been asked generally to people that are on various social media outlets. And I've seen it on some of the mainstream media, frankly. And the question is, why not? And the answer is not going to be one where I'm answering for all of the black community per se, but I'm saying this in terms of a level of two different pieces of this, two different levels of it. One of them is it's a safety issue and other people of color. But I'm going to speak specifically to this question around black folks not being en masse at protest. That doesn't mean that all black folks are not protesting or out protesting, but en masse is largely a safety issue right now. And I think it's, you have to be careful to criticize folks that have not gone out, that are not protesting, and that are African American. Because a lot of black folks are saying we didn't, like I've said, try to tell the country that this is where we were headed, or where we, in many cases, already were. This is just going to tip us over. And people didn't listen, didn't pay attention, said, you guys are playing the race card, you're doing what, a variety of different things. And this is coming from progressives in many cases, not just coming from the liberal voice, not just the people on the right who had a different agenda. And so that's what this is based in. It's based in the years and years and years of black Americans saying, we have been telling the country for decades that there are many systemic problems. And when we've said these things, we've been, just pushed into the corner, told to shut up, told us to stop playing the race card, and the list goes on. That we didn't know what we were talking about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when we've referenced the imbalances in the country, many people have said, well, look at and then you get the standard 10 successful black folks. Look at what they're doing. You guys have heard me touch on this topic before, but I wanted to lean into it a little bit differently this morning. Let me be perfectly clear. Cory Booker was a prime example this past week. And I told you guys I'm going to keep talking about what he did. He was a prime example of, and he said it himself in his own words, of someone that had been treated in an extraordinarily biased way so many times through his entire life. College, law school, even as a senator. And yet he still stood up and said, this is still the country that I believe in. So let me be perfectly clear. Because black folks have decided they're going to not be, the meme that's out there of the number of black women sitting on top of a skyscraper, drinking coffee and watching the flames. Black folks have not given up on the United States of America. Do not think that not going out to protest right now or being a little bit more measured right now from black Americans is us giving up on the country. That's not the case. This is where I will speak for the masses of black folks in America. We haven't given up on it. If anything, we are probably most engaged. We're looking at our country and saying, we didn't try to tell you. We told you that. And for not just this last cycle, we've been saying this for decades. And the reason that I referenced last week, let's not just get, it's April 4th and the death of Martin Luther King commemoration and celebration and all that. There's a history of black leaders who have died telling the country's got some problems. Okay? So, and yet, Cory Booker stands for 25 hours to tell the country we still love this country and we want this country to succeed. So don't think that black folks have rolled up our tents and said we're done. We're just taking a pause right now. And if you don't see black folks at protests and other things that are going on, it doesn't mean we've given up. We're not giving up on our country. Frankly, we're some of this country's oldest citizens. Ancestors of my community are some of the country's oldest, we'll just say participants, because during enslavement, we weren't considered citizens. We've been here longer than most immigrants. In fact, damn near every one of them. Every community that's migrated to this country, we've been here longer. Now, I'm not disrespecting the Native American and the Mexican American folks based on geography that were here prior. But I'm talking about specifically immigrants of the last 100, 200 years. We've been here longer. That's a fact. So we're not giving up on our country. We're staying for the fight. We're going to fight till it's over. I promise you that. But don't expect black folks to listen to other communities telling us what we should do right now or how we should be right now. Because we have been for decades saying to this country, and we've lost much treasure and livelihoods and great leaders in that process. And so that's where this is. It's not just the last cycle, so don't get it twisted. This is something that we've been begging the country to please pay attention to. And people didn't pay attention or told us we were crazy. And I don't speak to just race all the time. I try to speak, the folks that know me professionally, personally, family, all the rest, across the board. The folks that listen to this show, listen to me on the family meeting, listen to me when I've been on Joan. The list goes on. You all know I'm a balanced dude. I look at all of us as we're this big, crazy family of, a big old pot of goulash or gumbo or whatever mixture of a good pot of something you want to call us. That's who we are. We are a melting pot. I get that. I stand for the community of us, but I also am not one to apologize for what black folks have had to say to this country for decades. And so I just want to be perfectly clear, and I'll probably circle back to this in the future, that black folks are not sitting this one out, meaning we're folding up our tent. We have decided, many people have decided, that they're going to speak to this differently. And I would honor and respect that rather than going down the path, once again, of telling black folks how they should be in a particular moment. That's part of the problem for those who are Caucasian and other community progressive liberal Democrats. Just pause for a second and ask yourself that question. I can speak to it, and I can speak to the diversity of my life and know that I'm right about this, and I don't need to be right. It's not me trying to be right. It's knowing that based on the facts, the data, and the experiences of my life and experiential living, that I can speak to this. So don't be out there upset, protesting about black folks not protesting. Okay? Don't do that. Go do your work. Maybe ask for some advice or some thoughts. But don't be telling black folks right now that and asking, why aren't you all out there with us? We've always been out there with you. And Cory Booker made it clear, we're still in this fight. Trust me, we are, because we're not giving up on our country. And I say our country, not this country, our country. Okay? So I want everybody to understand that. And that's coming from me professionally as a host and personally. We're not giving up on this country, our country. And we're going to fight through these crazy times, just like the rest of us with this crazy A person in the White House. And we're going to fight through on these economic challenges. Because that's what we have to do. We recognize that. So link up with some folks. Make sure that you're bonding with people of different communities of color, and specifically African-American community. And know that we can win this fight, but we can't win this fight by internally fighting about how to win this fight. Protests this weekend represented the fact that folks are frustrated. I almost said a bad word. But it doesn't mean that people, what it means, to speak to the positive, it means that people they're fully recognizing that this is not what is tolerable in the country. I will say that a lot of the folks on the right, this is what they voted for. People have said, it's not what I voted. No, it is what you voted for. So we'll talk a little bit about that on the back end. We've got some really good clips that Devin and I put together, and I want you guys to be able to appreciate them. But just recognize that black folks have not turned our backs on our country. And recognize that the fight is still there. And we recognize it as much as anybody, if not more. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll get some of your calls on the back end. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Every 40 seconds, a child is reported missing. That's 2,000 children every single day. It's a heart-wrenching reality that we can no longer ignore. Find the Children is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping find missing kids. You can be a part of their mission by donating your unwanted vehicle, running or not. Call 1-800-775-5622. We guarantee that you will receive the maximum tax deduction. We provide fast, free pickup with 24-hour response. Call 1-800-775-5622. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help find missing children and educational materials to teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators. Our recovery programs have a proven track record of reuniting kids with their families. It's time to act. Donate your unwanted or unused car. Help us build a world where every child is safe. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-775-5622. Together, we can bring these kids home safely. This advertisement was paid for by Cars R Us and Find the Children.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered areas of rain and snow mixing at times here for today, then becoming all snow late. With cloudy skies, temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Breezy north winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow, cloudy, and a low around 25. By Tuesday, sunshine, high 42. Wednesday, chance for rain and snow mixing early, then becoming all rain, high 43. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 40.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. Make sure to stay tuned for our WCPT progressive lineup. That is, of course, the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, the Tom Hartman Show, professor of everything progressive, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, and Patty Vasquez, my bookend that's driving you home. Make sure to stay tuned for my wonderful colleagues and make your way over to where Heartland Signal to check out all of our great articles and posts. And you will find some cool stuff there to pass on to people. So Senator Amy Klobuchar has a really good clip you guys want to check out there. And we've got one we're going to probably play from her that talks about something that might make you laugh. All right. I made my point. I think you guys got it, and I'll probably make it again or talk about it again. We're still in this fight. We aren't going anywhere. I want to some quick shout-outs of clips, not clips, but texts that you guys sent me. Thanks to Rich and to Terry. I see you guys. Let's see who else, Devin. Kristen up in Minnesota. Rich down in Florida. Lois. And there you go. Thank you guys. I'm glad to hear that, to see that you guys are plugging in and sending some good content. So can't always get to every text, but at least want to let you guys know I saw your text. Devin, let's grab some calls. Let's go to Donna in Rogers Park. Donna, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. You know, I was thinking over this past weekend, I thought about when they keep talking about waste, abuse, and fraud. I was thinking about the last couple of years, how this Texas Governor Greg Abbott, how he depleted our COVID relief money because all this money we had to blow through for unallocated expenses with busloads of people coming, housing for them, medical care, feeding them, clothing them, and everything. And I was thinking about that. I said, now here we are, because we're a blue state, New York too, that we're targeted. Even during the Biden administration, for 2 years almost, we were targeted and taken advantage of. Greg Abbott sent all those people there, and he wasted a lot of money himself. Plus, we blew through money that could have been a cushion to help us right now when we really need that money. What do you think about that?
I have spoken to that before. First of all, Donna, thank you for reminding us of that in terms of waste, fraud, and abuse. One. Two, I've spoken to it before, and I got something to say about it again since you're reminding us. And even here, and people just want to let this sort of pass by them like he didn't say anything. When Mayor Brandon Johnson here in Chicago said, hey, wait a minute, all that money that Governor Abbott wasted to make a and to do it in a way, but nobody wants. This is what happens. People want to go after Mayor Johnson all the time, and we, like I said, we're going to criticize him and compliment him to help him move forward and succeed. But doggone it, when he speaks about something like that, you got crickets. Nobody wants to say anything. Then he made a great point in talking about this in relationship to the folks being bused to Chicago. And, how he handled it, how the governor handled it, all the rest, we could debate about that for a long time. But doggone it, where are people calling out Greg Abbott, who made it so that put those people on buses and sent them, and DeSantis? Oh, no. Nobody wants to talk about that. And the amount of money that I did my research on, and it's a number that I can quickly get to because I keep it, it's like almost $150 million. And this is what was reported by the Texas Tribune. So that didn't come from, the New York Times or I won't say the Chicago Tribune because they wouldn't have had anything to say about it anyhow, or some other quote unquote publication in a blue city. It came from the Texas Tribune. $148 million.
Richard, these are the kind of things that upset me because when they talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, and they try to make it seem like we're the only ones, the Dems are the ones that's blowing money. But instead of going through our Social Security and dipping into all our personal, they need to be drawing back from these states. They should make these states pay back the money that they blew.
But under a Republican administration, you're right. But under a Republican administration, the federal government is not going to do that to a red state. They won't do it. I mean, they should. You're right, Donna. I mean,
that would be the right thing. That would be the right that way.
And not only the right thing to do, but financially, it would be the right thing. Right, socially, but financially, it'd be the right thing to do. But they're not going to do it because of politics, because they need those red voters in Texas to think that they got it all figured out, when in fact, I'm going to be honest with you, some of the worst business people that have gone into politics are Republicans, without a doubt.
They are, because every Republican administration runs up the debt. We pay the debt down, they run it back up. Now, before I hang up, I want to make one positive point, because I know I've been talking about a lot of negative stuff.
It's not negative. Let me stop you for a second. That's not negative. That's putting light to something that's been handled negatively. You haven't been negative, Donna. You've been highlighting points that need to be talked about. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't want you to think that I don't see that as negative.
I'm glad you said it, because I felt bad. I said, I am calling in. I know it's water under the bridge, it's water under the dam, but I was thinking, here he's going through our personal stuff, Musk and Trump, and here's money that was blown that could have been used for a positive purpose. But I know nobody wants to hear that now, because that's 2020 in hindsight. But I'm glad you said what you said, because these are the kind of mistakes that Republicans make administration after administration. Every time they get in there, they screw up.
And it's almost not even screwing up. It's intentional harm.
I'm in it for the fight. And I know you said people of color, but I think it was good for us to sit out and watch this, because we were looking to some people that promised to be with us for this last election, and they let us down. And I know some of those people that spoke to us and said, we're with you, voted for Trump. That's why I think it was good for them to not see our faces in the crowds, because they need to know we are the original fighters. We're the original people, the ones that were here before everybody else, the indigenous people and us. And they need to see our value. So when we're not there, they need to say, you know what? We got to go back to them and really work with them. And we got to speak the truth to one another. Stop lying. If you know you're not going to do something, just say, you know what? I'm not going to do it. Just be truthful. That's all I ask. Tell the truth. If we tell the truth to each other, we can't lose. On that, you have a great morning.
You too, Donna. Thanks for the call. Yeah, y'all. Donna's got that car in sixth gear this morning. Listen, I got a text from our good friend Kurt Herner. He says, Donna ain't negative. Donna is honest. Y'all hear me? Kurt said, Donna ain't negative. And I hope you're hearing this, Donna. Donna is honest. That is so spot on. Thank you, Kurt, for that. All right, Dev, let's go to Phil in Park Ridge. Good morning, Phil. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for taking my call, Richard.
Absolutely.
Before I start, I went to the protest on Saturday, and as we're on the L going downtown, where the discussion came that here is Donald Trump, who should either be sitting in a jail cell somewhere or in a courtroom. He's sitting in the White House making all these crazy policy changes or flawed policy proposals like the tariffs and things. But that's not why I'm calling. I'm just calling to say what a wonderful experience it was at the protest. Like I said, I got on the Ravenswood L, and I went downtown, and as we stopped at all these stops, everyone was getting on with signs. And it was amazing as you started to talk to people how legitimate their concerns were about what's going on. I talked to 2 researchers that were involved in research projects that were terminated. One had to do with respiratory therapy, and the other had to do with pain. And their research requires observations over a period of time. It was cut. All their work is gone for naught, or they don't know what the status of that is. But then also talking to people about immigration issues, about how unfairly treated this gentleman was, that was placed down in El Salvador
because of a administrative error. Is that the one you're talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was just everybody was so enthused and just wanted to get stuff done. It was very, very impressive. To see, and I guess the number was 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Is that what?
I've heard that number here in Chicago, and I mean, I think the big conversation here, Phil, is across the country. As I said at the beginning of the show, folks showed up. Folks realized that they've got to get out, and I've been, I'm proud to see folks got out to have their voices heard and to be visible. And so and it's also good to hear that you were able to get out and be a part of that. I think what's important, Phil, or one of the parts that's critically important to everybody across the country listening, is it's now what's next. It's great to get out and protest and do that and know that there's a collective thought and a collective body, and it's next, the next. And we have to continue to operate in the mindset of the next. What do we do next? So that's where, hopefully you'll find your next, whatever that may be. It may be another protest. It may be calls. It might be letters. It might be text messages to your elected officials here in Illinois or in another state. But we have to keep the momentum going, I believe.
You're exactly right, because that's the dilemma I'm confronted with now. What more? There's a lot more that I can do, but how do you direct your activity towards informing people what's going on, and what's going on is not right.
Yeah, so Phil, what you got to do... Sorry, man, go ahead. I apologize.
What's the vehicle we can use to keep this momentum going? Because we have to at least sustain this effort through the midterm elections next year. So we've got months ahead of us that we've got to keep people notified about what's happening here and how wrong it is.
Well, I think that the answer to that question, and I'm going to give you one of the answers, not a singular answer. I don't think there is a singular answer other than keep moving. And if I'll give you, here's my homework assignment for you is to find out what it is that you do well when it comes to activity, when it comes to fighting, and do those things. If it's phone calls, Phil, if it's mail, if it's email, whatever, if it's a sign in your yard or whatever, stay active. Keep moving. That's what you have to do. If you stop, it's harder to get momentum from a stop than it is to move and keep moving. That's kind of where I am in that. Okay.
And you're exactly right, because this protest was very motivating for me, because there are a lot of very concerned people that have legitimate concerns with what's going on. Yeah. And we've just got to keep this momentum going and have it translate really to next November when those elections take place, and make sure that we get candidates in there.
And even right now, Phil, I think right now, the reason I say keep moving right now is because there are elections that are taking place in parts of the country that every win is momentum building and continuing. And I'll tell you, here's the other little homework assignment I'll give you and anybody that's wondering what to do next. Go watch the movie Harriet, or on the story on Harriet Tubman, the most recent version. Go watch that movie. If you need some motivation about continuing to keep moving, which was part of her dialogue to people that she was helping to get out of enslavement, go watch that movie. That'll remind you of what you got to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
And now, is the movie on Netflix or where could...
Probably on Netflix. I couldn't tell you exactly. I would have to look it up. But
okay.
Just Google the movie, find out where you can watch it, whatever you stream, and go watch Harriet. Just watch that movie, and that'll remind you of what this country is capable of getting done when we keep moving. Okay.
Okay, but anyway, again, that protest, it was very, very motivating. People were just a common cause, and boy, there's a lot of legitimate issues that people have with this, what's going on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, Phil. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Talk to you soon.
Okay,
bye now.
Bye.
All right, Dev, let's go to a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. Y'all be safe out there, but we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be right back.
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. A couple quick things before we go to another call. Phil was asking about where to find the movie Harriet, and of course, Devin being on the spot. It's on Hulu, and I'm not promoting one streaming service versus the other. I'm just making it easy for you guys to go find it, and thanks to Dev for hooking us up. But it's on Hulu. Go if you need something to help you understand about the importance of keep moving, watch that movie. So, shout out to Diane and Paula for your text this morning regarding the national protests on April 19th, the anniversary of the start of the American Revolution. There you go. Thanks to Diane and Paula for sending that to us this morning. Listen, and I apologize. I got to go back. Apologize, guys. Lois, again, thank you. Couldn't agree more. Protests are great, but it has to be followed up with calls, emails, postcards, better than letters, in quotes, and going to town halls, lobbying if you can find a group to work with as an eye-opening experience in how Congress works. A+ to Lois for all the above. We have to keep moving. We have to keep the momentum going. And I just know that momentum, when you're moving, is easier to get to keep and further than when you're at a stop. Pausing is one thing, stopping is different. Getting rest is one thing, stopping is different. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a few weeks ago that said, why am I such a big proponent, Devin, of resting? She said, well, don't you rest when you sleep? I said, yeah, I rest when I sleep, but resting is also, like Devin and I were talking about this before we came on. See, I made him smile already. The importance of a nap, okay? So sometimes you got to take a little bit of a protesting or activities nap, but stay in the fight. Keep moving. Go watch Harriet. All right, Devin, let's grab a quick call from Andrew in the city of Detroit. How you doing? Good morning, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard and Devin, thanks for the work you do.
Yep.
You help Richard out greatly. Thanks, Devin. Richard, you got to watch out. You got to watch out. I don't know. I think Miss Donna, oh boy, she can give you a run for your money.
Yeah, she was ready to go this morning, wasn't she?
I love listening to her. May God bless her soul. And it isn't negative, like you said. It isn't negative. It wakes us up. It wakes us up.
Yeah.
She was right, too. You look at all those red states, the waste, fraud, and abuse that they did. Whenever the red state, it's always about hate. You know, the Democrats, maybe there's waste, fraud, and abuse from Democratic, but it's us trying to help people around the world, help people who are in trouble in this country, help people who are hurting. And they call that waste, fraud, and abuse. And then what their governors will do, it's sinful. It is just, I don't know. Something else to remember, too, you were talking about non-whites not attending rallies. So what, you know, that's coming from white people who didn't show up for the Black Lives Matter marches, too. You know?
Andrew, listen, man, I got to ride with you on this for a second. Ride with you. A lot of people were like, hey, wait a minute. You know, why are you guys not showing up? Don't you care about our country? Yeah, and you're the same person that told us that white lives matter, too. So, you know, we never said white lives don't matter. We said black lives matter. And by the way, all lives matter. We know that. It's inherent in the conversation. But you're right, Andrew. I don't want to, you know, you're right about that, man.
I got one more thing, Richard. Maybe that whole topic about black people being in this country longer than their European whites. Boy, you know, I hadn't even thought about that till you brought it up. That didn't even dawn on me. You know, I have some indigenous blood in me, but my Swedish relatives didn't get here till way after your people got here. Yeah, you know,
and Andrew, that's not
who built Washington D.C. Who built that city? Who built the White House? Who built? You know, maybe black people are tired. Maybe they're tired. They built this damn country, and now they get accused of not showing up.
Yeah.
Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're taking a nap right now. You know, maybe they were really tired from listening to Cory Booker up there that long, where Chucky Schumer should have resigned immediately, you know, but maybe they're tired from that. Okay, Richard, I'm all fired up this morning.
There you go, Andrew. Thank you so much. We appreciate your contribution, man. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, folks, listen, Just the reason there are reasons always when this cabal of craziness and craven fools say and do what they want to do, and it could be on economics, it could be on social issues. The list goes on. And I got a great text that said it. I'm going to give you the edited version. Basically, Richard, I'm vision impaired, and this isn't on black folks to fix this. This is on us, and this is, I can't repeat how the person put it, but this is not on black folks to fix this. So kudos to you for that text. Thanks again. Lois is on fire this morning too. Listen, y'all, this is not about pointing fingers. This is, and I was looking at and going through my notes in terms of the protests and asking myself, how do I want to talk about this morning? And, you know, I wanted to talk about this somewhat more than what's happening with our market free fall right now. Because we know that's happening, and I know when the markets open, we're going to see, I don't want to predict, we're probably going to see some repeats of what happened last Friday and Thursday. So, you know, we can fix that, and we can fix it by staying in the fight. We can fix that by making sure that we're plugged in. We aren't going to do ourselves any good by saying things like, why aren't black folks out here protesting too? That's not going to help the situation. We have to stay in the fight. We have to be a little bit like Harriet Tubman was. Think about the garbage she went through, literally. So, you know, we can do our versions of that. We can. We certainly have a hell of a lot more resources as a community of Americans. I believe the evidence would tend to back that up. Deb, let's grab one more call before we get to the top of the hour. Let's go to George in the Park of Oak Park. Good morning, George. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard.
How are you?
I attended I'm eating a cookie. Sorry.
Is it good? Wait. Hold on, man. You can't just run past that. Is a cookie good?
Yeah, it's still leftover from Christmas time. It is a peppermint, a candy cane sandwich cookie, and it gives me a boost. And yes, it's
I made you laugh.
It's the perfect cookie for while listening to your program.
Good. So talk to me about the protest. You were there.
Okay, great attendance there. Stream of people marching over there by at the intersection of Oak Park Avenue and Lake Street, the same Lake Street that runs into downtown Chicago, Oak Park Avenue, 6800 West, half a mile east of Harlem, downtown Oak Park, next to Stovall Park, and the library. And spectrum of the population was there. All age brackets, especially, the senior citizens, they were there. They walked in canes, and they had to be there.
Yeah.
But it is a battleground. Why we have to keep on fighting. It's a battleground on the radio airspaces. You're there. WCPT is there. But, I listen a lot to WLS because I want to get their take on it. And they're like the Russians. They really are the worst. Stuttering Chris Plant, constantly calling us, a communist. Mark Levin, smart guy that he is, brags about writing all these books, and he's writing one now, calling us Marxist. I mean, this is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They keep saying that it's the Democrats that started the Civil War, that it's the Democrats that lynched people, that it's the Democrats that started this. They talk about how the deficit needs to be trimmed down, on other parts of their radio station. But they never say how the deficit of going on $40 trillion now, they never say how they got there.
Yeah. And George, and we're coming to the top of the hour. I'd hate to tighten you up like this. But I'm glad, first of all, I'm glad you're at the protest, and I'm glad you are seeing what needs to be seen, but more importantly, you're speaking to it. That's part of staying moving and staying active. And I compliment you on that, because that's what it's going. That is part of what it's going to take to continue to fight back against those other voices. I can tell you that from life experience. We have to stay in the fight. And I'll leave you with this: go enjoy the rest of your peppermint from Christmas cookie. And thanks for your contribution, George.
Will do. And you know what? We have to take this personally, because we're being attacked.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, George. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being with us this morning. Have a great day, okay?
Thanks, Rick. Have a good afternoon.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Dev, let's go ahead and grab this quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about an environmental issue, which is critically important, with John McCabe, who's a director of resource management at the Forest Preserves of Cook County. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
We're joined by Congressman Mike Quigley.
When I got sworn in 16 years ago, the first person that came up to me, of all things, was a Republican named Mark Kirk, who later became our senator. And he did give good advice. He said, the only thing that gets done here is when we meet in the middle. So there's a lot of truth to that. But, what I tell folks who are looking from afar, not looking at what this president's doing, moving us toward more of an autocracy, is you meet in the middle when the middle is reasonable, right? And you both benefit. That's a two-party democracy at work. But when one side takes,
the most extreme positions, it's not my job to go way out there to meet them.
Yeah.
They have to come back to the norm.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find an amazing candidate fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
AP News, I'm Haya Pinjwani. President Trump says he's monitoring the measles outbreak in Texas, where 2 children have died from measles-related illnesses. Here he is speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One.
It's so far a fairly small number of people relative to what we're talking about. It's something that people have known about for many, many years. I mean, measles has been, this is not something new. And we'll see what happens. But certainly, if it progresses, we'll have to take action.
AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports Asian shares nosedive after the meltdown Friday on Wall Street over President Trump's tariffs and the resulting backlash from Beijing.
China on Monday accused the US of unilateralism, protectionism and economic bullying with the tariffs, while calling on representatives of American companies, including Tesla, to take concrete actions. In Tokyo, Rintaro Nishimura, an associate at the Asia Group, tells the AP losses are occurring as traders don't know which direction President Donald Trump's tariff strategy will go in.
The idea that there's so much uncertainty going forward about how these tariffs are going to play out, that's what's really driving this plummet in the stock prices.
Meanwhile, in an interview with Australian network AUBC, analyst Tim Harcourt says the US tariffs hurt on a variety of levels.
Tariffs hurt workers. They hurt jobs. They are inflationary.
I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The National Weather Service is warning that dozens of locations in multiple states are expected to reach a major flood stage. NWS meteorologist Frank Pereira explains what areas in the major to moderate flood stage can expect.
Those impacts are unfortunately going to continue here for the next several days as, all that water that has fallen continues to fill or flow into the rivers.
This is AP News. States are dealing with the high cost of weight loss drugs and the impact limited coverage would have on patients.
More than a dozen states cover GLP-1 drugs like Wegovy, Ozempic, and Zepbound through Medicaid or state employee insurance programs. Connecticut faces a $290 million Medicaid account deficit. Democratic Governor Ned Lamont is looking to tighten guidelines on who can use GLP-1s. Starting June 14th, state Medicaid patients will be required to have a type 2 diabetes diagnosis to get the drugs covered. Sarah Makowicki has been on GLP-1s for 2 years. In an AP interview, Makowicki said she sees the move by Governor Lamont as discriminatory towards the obese community.
And now they're finally getting results, and they're going to lose coverage, and it's just not right.
The 42-year-old says she knows the drugs are expensive, but believes there are ways for GLP-1s to get funded. An expansion of coverage, she says, would improve others' lives just like they did for her. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
I'm Haya Pinjwani, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered areas of rain and snow mixing at times here for today, then becoming all snow late. With cloudy skies, temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Breezy north winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow, cloudy, and a low around 25. By Tuesday, sunshine, high 42. Wednesday, chance for rain and snow mixing early, then becoming all rain, high 43. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 41.
Think Theory Radio.
We're joined by Allie Mae Miller, hypnotherapist.
Hypnosis is portrayed in media in general. Manipulation, mind control. People think it's like a truth serum. My clients describe it as they're in control the whole time. It's definitely not a truth serum. The client decides what they share with me, even in a state of hypnosis.
Think Theory Radio with Damian Perdue. Saturdays at 6 p.m. on WCPT 820.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Second hour, 773-763-9278. Great conversation with you guys regarding the protest. If you were there, give us a holler. We definitely want to squeeze you in this morning, even with the fact that we have a couple of guests in the next two segments. But give us a holler. We'll figure out how to get you in. And if you've got some comments about or thoughts about what I said and talked about with regard to where folks are in this conversation around protesting, give us a call as well. We want to hear from you. I'm not an environmentalist, Devin, but I try to do my best to make sure that this thing that we live on, this planet, is in good shape. And I don't always get it right. But what I know what's in my heart and my mind, and that's to do a little bit every day, do something or be mindful of it every day. And I'm the first to say sometimes I leave the doggone refrigerator door open when I'm doing something on the other end of the counter, or, I don't turn the water off as quickly as I should. And the list goes on. But on the other side, I do know that, I don't sit and idle in my car. I don't top off my gas tank and other things that I've learned. And most importantly, talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. And this is one of the things I want to talk to with our guest about in terms of our support systems that are designed to make sure that our environment is safe. And John McCabe is a director of resource management at the Forest Preserves of Cook County. Let's bring John on the line. Welcome to the show. Good morning, John. Welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm standing up. I've got my voice rolling, and I'm able to talk to great folks like you who have been leaders in our community when it comes to our forest preserves. I love our forest preserves. I just think they're one of the coolest things in the state, certainly in the community. But take a moment. And I'll nerd out a little bit in a second, but I just want to let you have a chance to talk a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about John McCabe and your background, and also tell us a little bit about John McCabe and currently what you're doing when it comes to the Forest Preserves of Cook County.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm the director of the Department of Resource Management, which is at the Forest Preserves of Cook County, which is the oldest and largest forest preserve in the country. And we just crossed the 70,000 acre mark last November in the land that we're managing. So that's really cool. I've been with the Forest Preserve District since 1990. So I've seen some significant change in how the Forest Preserve is operated and the way it's managed. And we really turned a corner when President Preckwinkle and Superintendent Randall came on board late 2010, early 2011. In executing the Next Century Conservation Plan. And anybody who gets out in the Forest Preserve and is a regular user, I think, has seen these changes. I'm just grateful to be a part of this team and the managing the Forest Preserves that we have here today.
Well, John, listen, man, I got to tell you, I thought that they were, but I wasn't certain that we were the oldest and the largest in the country. And a lot of that is just based on the topography of where we are. And then at the same time, topography and then separate from that, the location and where we are in the state. But talk about what that size. You said 70,000. Talk about the size. I apologize. I was trying to remember exactly what you said. But talk about the size and how many forest preserves there are that are part of the management system.
Yeah, 70,000 acres. I mean, it makes up a little bit over 11% of Cook County in its entirety. So when we do presentations, I like to tell people to look at like an aerial photo of Cook County and sort of zoom out, and you can see this, what they call the emerald necklace that sort of surrounds the city of Chicago. Unfortunately, only about 4,000 of those acres are within the city limits, and the rest is out in the suburbs, predominantly along river systems, which was, to protect those systems. And then, of course, what we call our national park out in the Palos Preserves, which is about 12,000 acres of almost somewhat contiguous forest preserve. And really, there's forest preserve in all reaches of the county, with the exception of some of those areas within the city. And so the general public can get to these places. 400 miles of trail, 5 campgrounds, 3 aquatic centers, 6 nature centers, 10 golf courses. I mean, if there's something that you're interested in doing in the outdoors, you can almost find a place to do it here in the Forest Preserve.
Yeah, and the system, I love the way you said, you called it the Emerald Necklace, in terms of, how it shapes and forms the city of Chicago and Cook County. But what's so cool about our system is that, like you said, if you're looking for something to do, whether it's playing golf, whether it's hiking, whether it's biking, whether it's walking, and some people like to separate hiking from walking, but that, it's having a picnic in the park, the list goes on. And we're so blessed because Cook County is the second largest county in the country. And I'm always amazed at the work that, and with the leadership, to your point, that President Preckwinkle has put forth. And we had her on the show a few weeks ago, and she spoke largely to the fact that she's got a great staff, a good team of people, of which you're part of that. Tell us, are we in good shape? Is the Forest Preserve system in good shape? As a director of resource management, I know that encompasses a lot of different boxes that you've got to check, but are we in good shape?
Richard, we're in excellent shape, and a lot of that has to do with, the management over these last almost 15 years now, and, of course, the success of the referendum in November of 2022. There was a plan in place. If that referendum was successful, a lot of work went into that, so thank you to all of our partners who led that campaign, and the taxpayers, of course, for voting yes on that campaign. We are executing that plan, which is tied back to that Next Century Conservation Plan that was released back in 2014. If you get out in the preserves and you get out and see the work that's been done there's 4 key areas, but the nature side, and then in particular the other key one is the people side. So not only is nature much healthier out in those forest preserves, but so is the people side as far as all the programming and special events and things like that the Forest Preserve is doing. The investment that was put back into these places that our regular users are using day in and day out to engage with the Forest Preserve in whichever way you're most comfortable with. So absolutely 100%, we are in phenomenal shape.
That's great. That's so, and again, I said I knew I'd kind of partially nerd out because I do love them, and people that come to Chicago specifically and more broadly the area, Illinois and this part of the state, will oftentimes, if they've not been here before, but they come in for business and they're here for a couple of days and maybe they get out and about and they'll say, wow, I didn't know, and they'll say Chicago had so many great parks. Well, yes, we do, but we also have this other part of our system, which is our Forest Preserve system. And I'm just glad to hear from someone like you that they are doing well. Let me ask you, let's pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about this conversation around prescribed burns and what that means broadly to the state, maybe a little bit more micro to the city, but also to the land mass that is part of our Forest Preserve systems.
Sure. The habitats that we have in the Forest Preserve of Cook County predominantly are fire-dependent ecosystems, and this management tool had been removed for many, many, many years. And so it hasn't been until recently that we've really introduced this at the level it needs to be in conjunction with other management activities that we're doing now to bring this area, the different prairies, woodlands, savannas, wetlands, back to the health that we need, and fire is a key component there. The recognition that fire is a key component. In my career here at the Forest Preserve, again, over closing in on 35 years now, I've seen a 180 shift in the view on this from what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? To, hey, for your work, this is really important. So even the general public has a strong recognition now of how important of a management tool fire is. And, at the state level, in my role as the president of the Illinois Prescribed Fire Council, I've seen it across the state as well, this shift in the support for fire as a management tool. And again, in the second most populated county in the United States, we are the leader in urban conservation as it relates to ecological restoration and prescribed fire across the country. So not just Northeast Illinois, but across the country. And we've been successful, over these last 10 to 15 years.
So what is it that prescribed burns actually do? And I know that's a question that has a long answer. But for those who appreciate our environment, I'm trying not to tip your hand too much. What is it that prescribed burns do, and why are they so integral to such any large landmass like our forest preserves?
Yeah, you're right, Richard. It's a long answer, but I'll give you the short sort of rating it in crayon. It's like a spring cleaning or a fall cleaning, depending on which season we're burning in. You run fire through that particular ecosystem, and you're knocking out the things that you don't want there, and you're making it better for the things that you do want there. So sort of like a fall or spring cleaning.
Yeah, that's a. I think everybody can plug into that. How much does this two-part question? How much does it cost in monies, so to speak, and how much do we actually, or do you guys actually have in a prescribed burn on a seasonal basis?
Yeah, well, cost is based on how much burning we end up doing, so to speak, and that, like our fall fire season this past fall, we only had one burn day, so we didn't get out that much. And actually, from when we look at other management tools, like if we weren't doing fire, if we had to spend money to try to mimic what we would do on a fire situation, it would cost us 10 times more than if we're able to utilize a prescribed burn. When we run the numbers overall, it's a very small percentage of our overall budget. Okay.
Yeah.
It's when you look at it from that perspective. As far as the amount that we get done, we average about 7,000 acres between our two burn seasons. So fall and spring is considered sort of one burn season, because then you have your growing season, after the spring fire. Mm-hmm. And when you put that in perspective with other land management agencies across the state, which we've done, we're right behind the Illinois Department of Natural Resources as the agency getting the second most burning done in the state. When you think about that from the perspective of how big IDNR is, that's a pretty significant success for us.
Yeah, I mean it's a county matched up against an entire state, so that's a big number. I see what you're saying in that comparison. So here's another question, John, and I know again this is a technical area, but it's also cannot be. It can be relatively simplified. What is the health benefit to folks in the county, folks in the region, of having prescribed burns? And I know that this is but I'll stop and let you answer that question.
Yeah, and this is something that we get asked a lot, because when we're out burning, right, we are creating pollution, right, and we mitigate that through a whole bunch of different things. And the science on the other side of this, right, is that the benefits from having healthy ecosystems far outweighs the short-term impact we have on the pollution side when we're doing a prescription burn. And that's the key thing. If we don't have fire as a tool here, we end up with ecosystems that are not healthy, that are you only have one or two plant species growing there. You lose the other plants and animals that call this place home, that provide all these benefits to the general public. And so not even from the clean air perspective, right, but from the mental health side of things. Who wants to go out and walk down a trail where all you're looking at is buckthorn or honeysuckle, two of our more major invasive species, right? We want to see, very nice plants and hear the birds and all that, right? And if we don't have these things, if we don't have fire out there and we don't have these biodiverse ecosystems, all those things go away. And that's a negative impact on a couple of fronts to the general public that is using these forest preserves.
Well, so the regrowth, I think what popped into my brain was, photosynthesis. And then I went down the path of regrowth is really where it's at. As things that are dying get prescribed, burn off, and then regrowth can take place. That's where, from an air quality standpoint, we actually benefit, right?
Definitely, there's an added benefit there, and then just again the overall health for the remaining ecosystem that's there, right? So you got your plants that are going to come back every year, but they're going to be more vigorous, right? We're increasing that nutrient cycling, so that kind of situation. We're warming up the ground sooner than areas that weren't burned, so those plants are getting almost a 2 to 3 week head start on all the other plants. So there's all these little benefits like that contribute to the overall health of that ecosystem above and beyond, again, if we weren't putting fire on the ground out there.
Yeah. So with that, in terms of the regrowth and how you've got this new plant. So basically, those plants that need to grow are being unchoked because of the more toxic things that stay there if you don't get rid of them with the prescribed burn. Now the fresh growth is more diverse, but it's also a healthier growth. Frankly, because it didn't have to work so hard to grow. Is that kind of a layperson's way of looking at it?
For sure. Yeah, you're clearing out that spring cleaning, sort of idea, right, where you're getting rid of all that and allowing these plants to, to grow unchained, so to speak, and be more healthy for sure. Absolutely.
You talked a little bit about I'll say competition, but the way in which the Forest Preserve is performing in comparison, not in a negative way, or to the state. And that makes me think about money. That makes me think about the environment. That makes me think about EPA. And then we get into a federal conversation. How are you guys preparing yourselves to deal with what impact may come from the federal government when it comes to funding anything that's environmental or EPA related?
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, and, we don't look at it as to be, and as you pointed out, really, we're not in competition with anybody on that side. We want to work together with folks, and I think that's how we're going to survive what's going on now on the federal level, right, is by sticking together. And the Forest Preserve has been incredibly successful in our work through partnerships. And, certainly DNR has been a great partner along with, so many other folks here in and around Cook County and Northeast Illinois. And even on the federal level, we've worked with a lot of folks, Fish and Wildlife in particular, US EPA, the Forest Service. So we certainly want to maintain those partnerships. And I think that's going to be the secret to us surviving what's happening in the federal government right now. And, of course, the leadership in the state, and, of course, President Preckwinkle and her team.
Yeah. So we're talking about, for those who might be in Seattle right now, someone that's down in Texas or someone that's in Florida listening to the show, we're talking about a very particularly local issue. We know that because forest preserves are part of Illinois, part of Cook County. But the reality is this is based on, and I'll try to stop myself here, this is prescribed burns based on something that's been historical in North America, and the learning that's come out of what I'm trying to remember what took place. Was it in Yellowstone? But this is not just a Chicago or a Forest Preserve Cook County issue. This is a national opportunity based on everything that I've read. Am I crazy, or am I somewhat on point here?
No, you're on the right page there for sure, Richard. And and again, am I going back to my role in the Illinois Prescribed Fire Council? I attended a lot of these national conferences and interacted with folks. Even though we're like a smaller piece compared to that, bigger picture like you see out in California and whatever else, everybody is working together to be successful in the fire community because they all recognize how important that is. And so these folks are all, on the same page as it relates to that. But at the same time, you have to be concerned about some of the things that are going on the wildland fire side, and that's where we have to speak to the difference between prescribed fire and wildland fire, and why what we're doing here in Cook County is safe, and that you're not going to have a situation like you see on the 5 o'clock news or whatever it is you might watch social media on what's going on with some of the situations out west.
Yeah. Well, John, this I promised myself and you I wouldn't nerd out too much because I love the outdoors, and I love the fact that we have such a beautiful system here in northeastern Illinois. And thank you, as Director of Resource Management, for the work that you've done and the team and the partnerships that you've put together and been sustaining for being with us this morning. If folks want to follow you or get involved or learn a little bit more about the Forest Preserves in general, how can they do that?
I think the best way is to visit our website, which is fpdcc.com. I mean, that's really the portal to the Forest Preserve right there. So I definitely would point folks in that direction.
Absolutely. John McCabe, thanks for being with us this morning. We really appreciate you taking the time out to nerd out a little bit about prescribed burns and protecting our natural resources and forest preserves. We appreciate you being with us this morning.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, John. Have a great day. Talk with you soon. Bye now.
Take care.
Yep, you too. So, yeah, guys, listen, for those who are not in Chicago area, those of us who are here, I got a couple comments to make here. For those of us who are here, use our forest preserves more. Get out. We're at springtime, and John said it's, lots that happens between now, the next 6 months. Get out and enjoy our forest preserves. And this crazy time that we're dealing with these fools in Washington, specifically the one that's in the White House, this is something that we can take advantage of. Those of you who may not be in the Chicagoland area that are listening, we do have some pretty sweet parks and systems here, and our forest preserves are right there at the top of the list. What I will say to you is a little bit of a remedy in terms of doing something. Get out. If you live in an area where you got the forest, you have a not forest preserve, but you have a park system or an outdoor system, take advantage of it. If you live in a topographical area where you've got hills and things of that nature, get out. That will help you right now, I believe, in dealing with some of this craziness. I'm just, I'm not prescribing you a solution. I'm just giving you some added ways in which you can navigate through this period of time that we're in. And, let me know. Send me an email. Call me, text me, I should say, call the show. And let me know if you've got an area where you live where you can get out and do things. Share that with us. So thanks to John for being with us this morning. And in this conversation that we're having about our environment, this conversation we're having about what's happening in Washington, we've got people right here in Chicago, and many of you do in where you live, that are taking care of the environment, even though our federal government, our federal current administration, I should say specifically, doesn't seem to give a darn about it. There you go. I said it. Yes, I did. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk with one of the leading political strategic voices, Mike Nellis, who will be joining us to talk a little bit about what's happening. 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the summer of 1881, 2 decades after the Civil War, 20 African-American laundresses met at a local church in Atlanta to form the Washing Society, a trade organization which looked to create a higher uniform wage and greater work autonomy for laundresses, also known as washerwomen. Through the help of local preachers and door-to-door canvassing, the Washing Society grew from 20 members to 3,000 in only a few weeks. The workers went on strike and faced opposition from their employers as well as the local politicians. The Atlanta City Council proposed a licensing fee for their organizing efforts. Strikers agreed to the fee in exchange for self-regulation. In the end, the City Council rejected the proposed fees and the laundresses prevailed. The impact of the strike led to increased wages for some, but showed that African-American workers, including women, were vital to the New South economy. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered areas of rain and snow mixing at times here for today, then becoming all snow late. With cloudy skies, temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Breezy north winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow, cloudy, and a low around 25. By Tuesday, sunshine, high 42. Wednesday, chance for rain and snow mixing early, then becoming all rain, high 43. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 43.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Hey, Devin, we've got a nice little text from one of our folks, commonly known as JD, that says, I hope you and Devin are taking care of yourselves. So thanks. Shout out to you, JD. Shout out to Jill up in Evanston. Funny lady sending us. She said, well, I'll keep it clean. Shout out to Jill and Lois as well. And let's see, Melanie over in Northwestern Indiana. So we appreciate, well, I shouldn't say Northwestern Indiana. She's from Indiana. So shout out to you guys who are keeping us on our toes this morning. Clip I wanted to play as a lead into our next guest, is really one that I looked at this weekend. I said this will be perfect as part of the conversation with our good friend Mike Nellis. Representative Brian Schatz talking about Trump and the economy.
Donald Trump is ruining the economy on purpose. He is ruining the economy on purpose. I'm not sure if there's ever been an American president, let alone a chief executive of any country, that has ruined the economy on purpose. The stock market had its worst day in 5 years yesterday, and I just checked before I delivered these remarks, just before, 5 minutes ago, 1,600 down on the Dow Jones. The S&P down 5%, NASDAQ 4%, the Russell 5%. What does that mean as a practical matter? It means if you spent all your life working and saving and investing, and you are on the edge of retirement, and let's say you've got $312,000 plus your Social Security income. You just lost 30 grand in 2 days because of Donald Trump. Because of Donald Trump, you lost 10% of what you earned over a lifetime. Now, for Howard Lutnick and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and everybody that surrounds him at Mar-a-Lago, they can ride this out. They can short it, they can buy crypto, they can do all kinds of wonderful things to make sure that they can ride this out. Regular people cannot ride this out. The dollar hit a 6-month low. Layoffs have already started. Consumers are cutting back on spending. And by the way, the data is there, but also just talk to anybody. Just talk to anybody about how they feel about spending right now. And the likelihood of a recession went up 20% in a day. JP Morgan now says it's more than 60% likely. So what is this even for? Why are people so freaked out? Why is the entire world, from friends and partners to adversaries and enemies, scrambling to retaliate against the United States, the indispensable nation? It's so that Donald Trump can raise trillions of dollars in revenue to pay for the biggest tax cuts for billionaires in the history of the planet. Starting tomorrow, we'll be paying more for everything: groceries, food, cars, homes, toys, electronics, everything that you buy. Estimates have home prices ballooning by almost $20,000 per unit. Cars will cost $6,000 more. An iPhone, $250 more. Clothing prices will go up by roughly 20%. Also, what? We're gonna be a textile manufacturer? That's our goal as a country, is to make T-shirts and socks?
Yeah. So I thought it would be great to have that clip from Representative Brian Schatz this morning to his points, I should say, are not hyperbolic. They're somewhat database, and we've got a very strong database person as our guest this morning, none other than Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
About yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm sure that you have some thoughts and comments about that. But before we get there, the last time we talked, you were getting over a little bit. You didn't have a cold. Did you have RSV? I'm putting your business out in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you feeling, man? You doing better?
I'm feeling much better. I was able to I got an inhaler, so I was walking around, looked super cool with it. But it cleared my lungs up real quick, and I'm doing okay.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I had that in my brain. I was like, I hadn't talked to you in a bit, but I'm glad you're on the mend and doing better. So dive in, man. I mean, you heard the clip, and Representative Schatz had a lot to say, and he had a lot more to say in that, but we wanted to keep it tight. What say you where we are in the last since going back to Wednesday night? We've seen some financial carnage like we haven't seen in decades. What are your observations?
Well, I think Senator Schatz got it largely right, but here's the thing: we've never seen an American president intentionally tank the economy before. We've just never seen it before, and it's alarming to me that Donald Trump was effectively elected to lower grocery prices, make housing more affordable. These are the things that he promised to do on day one. I knew he was full of it. You knew he was full of it. But, I can understand where the American people are going. I'm struggling to put food on the table. I'm struggling to start a family. I'm struggling to retire with dignity. And that guy, I think he can help me because right now the Democrats aren't doing enough. I can understand that. What I cannot understand is the callousness of, and frankly, the stupidity of this plan. Let's just be, really honest. This is a really stupid plan. It has been poorly articulated to the American people, and maybe we could, look, Donald Trump is really good, in my opinion, at articulating actual systemic problems that exist in America today. He is correct that we're getting screwed on trade, we're getting screwed in tariffs, and that is right. The wrong way to go about it is to isolate ourselves completely from the rest of the world, try to punish everybody because now we have no leverage. We have zero leverage in this. Maybe a tariff war works if we have allies, and maybe it works if you do it in a smarter, more organized way. But doing it this way, where you're just putting blanket 30% tariffs or whatever on every nation, all that's going to do is drive up costs on American consumers who are already struggling. All that's going to do is send people running for the hills, which is what we're going to see in the stock market today. And we're going to watch people get laid off. We're going to watch people struggle to buy a house. We're going to watch people struggle to put food on the table. And people's lives are going to be ruined right now. People's lives in America right now. And he's not going to bring a single manufacturing job back to the United States. And even if he does bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States, let's say he can convince people to build, and I'm sorry for ranting too long, but if he can convince people to build manufacturing plants, which will take 5 years to build and set up manufacturing plants, within that 5-year period, the advancements in AI and robotics is going to eliminate the need for humans to build iPhones and cars and other widgets. And so he has not thought through this plan at all. And don't get me wrong, working in a factory is noble work. We should not be looking down our nose. I've never done it, but I'm not going to look down my nose at anybody who's putting in a hard day's work. But this is not a plan that is going to deliver greatness to the American people. It's just not. It's ridiculous.
When you go back, I mean, and you're young enough. I'm going to put it this way: you're young enough.
Well, I'm not so young anymore.
And I'm
aged a lifetime in the last 90 days.
And I'm old enough to remember the promise of the Reagan administration that they were going to fix everything, that we were going to bring, but at the same time, they were advocates for tearing down unions, tearing down, to your point about that good, hard work, middle class, middle America way of being. So in the same moment that they were saying they were going to do these things and make things better, they were tearing down the support systems that were needed to actually make them better. And that's what Trump is doing. This is Reagan 2.0 in some ways, or 3.0, because the promise to do certain things is without the foresight and the planning to be able to actually execute them. And I like the way, and by the way, this is my show is Rant Central for people who need to get it out. I've said that many times. Eric has said that when we've been on the family meeting about it's the place to get it out, because then you can clear the deck and get stuff done. Talk about a prescribed burn. But Mike, listen, man, that's where we are. Once again, we've elected folks who are perceived by the community, the public, as being smart enough to get the job done, but not actually thoughtful enough and planners enough to see it through and know that there are other things happening. And to your point about AI impacting a 5-year window to build a factory that would then take up space and time, it shows that there's been no planning in this. It's all reactionary, and it's a lot of hyperbolic. Hey, we're going to make your life better, but how are we going to actually do it? And the Trump administration is very much like the Reagan administration. They spoke a good game, but they don't have the capacity to actually get some things done. And here we are again with a market that's going to be all, vomiting all over itself yet again today. I mean, you see it, and you know that people are going to be highly, not going to be, you and I both should clean that up in our language. They're not going to be hurt. They're hurting right now.
Yep. And look, I'll actually push back on something that you said. I don't think that Donald Trump talks a good game, because at least Ronald Reagan was able to communicate what he was trying to accomplish. Donald Trump had a rambling, incoherent press conference on Thursday, and then immediately left and has been in a golf tournament for the last 3 days that he hosted. And by the way, big news, everybody, Donald Trump won his own golf tournament again for the 30th time. So this is a man who doesn't understand what he's doing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just interjecting. Sorry. I was going to say he should tee it up with me and see how that turns out. Anyhow, go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry, Mike.
Listen, I saw his golf swing, and I'm a terrible golfer, but I actually think I might be better than him. So, but I don't have billions of dollars and sycophants help me win a tournament. But look, to me, it's a very simple proposition. For basically my entire lifetime, I'm about 40 years old, the economy has been fundamentally broken, and regular people have been struggling. Like these generation of kids under 30, they're going to be the first generation to do worse off than their parents at the same age. So I understand young people being frustrated and saying, I'm having a tough time finding a job. I don't know a path how to buy a house. I don't know how to start a family. I don't know how to retire with dignity. And then meanwhile, everything's getting more expensive, and the folks at the top are doing really, really well. And basically everybody else, 95% of Americans, 99% of Americans are not doing well. And again, what Trump is great at is taking legitimate fears and critiques of the system that are real and that our conventional politicians on the Democratic and Republican Party don't talk enough about, probably because they have a stake in it themselves. And he twists that. And what he's done is build a government that more than ever before only works for a small handful of corrupt billionaires. Because and Senator Schatz said this, Donald Trump's going to do very well in the market today. Okay, Howard Lutnick is going to do very well in the market today. And anybody who has a ton of capital can ride out whatever the next week, month, years looks like and be able to probably double, triple the amount of money they're going to make in the market. But if you have spent your life saving $300,000, $400,000, and that's the sum of your life as a middle-class person who has worked 30, 40 years in whether it's in a factory or a government job or an office job, whatever it is, whatever you save, you're going to lose you've already lost 10%, 12% of it.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose another 20% today, potentially. It's going to be that bad.
Too many people. Listen, the word I wrote down, and I write this down often, is the word responsibility. And so a 30-year-old, and this is not me, this is kind of me not pushing back, but just sort of adding some flavor to that. A 30-year-old or a 60-year-old is capable of reading and understanding and listening, and should be able to think in a prudent manner. And so when I hear that, we know that the Trump message got to people about certain things, but they're also failing in their responsibility to do the research and to do the work and to make sure that what's being talked about, what's being presented to them by any politician or any person, any business leader, makes some actual sense. And that, to me, is a failing of how our society has become so not dependent on education. And, I know for a fact that it's not because I'm African American or because I'm a progressive liberal Democrat that I knew a year or 10 years ago that this was all garbage coming from Trump. So I can't yield to the fact or yield to the conversation that someone my age or someone that's 20 or 30 years younger than me doesn't have access to the same information. It's a question of discernment and responsibility. And I think a lot of people have leaned into it's the politician's fault for not saying the message differently or more broadly and not taking some responsibility. I really believe that, and I look at it and say, okay, but you're supposedly a smart person. What happened? Do you know what I mean? And that is life experience telling me some folks got to take responsibility for their actions and not just let it be leaned into politicians and business leaders are the ones that bamboozled you. No, you let yourself get bamboozled.
Well, this is where you and I maybe, and I don't know that we're that far away, but I differ in the way that I talk about this a little bit. Because the first thing is, like, as a practitioner in the political space where I have to deal, like, functionally at work with the wins and losses, I tend to try to take radical responsibility for everything that happens on the campaigns that I work on, right? And so I ask myself, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And I spend a lot of time thinking about how our political leaders, Democratic and Republican, have not delivered for people. They just have not. And they have not been honest with people about what's happening in this country and the direction that we're moving. And I think it has allowed a person like Donald Trump, who has perceived authenticity, to worm his way in like a monorail salesman and start to sell everything off so that he can make more money, because he's a huckster and a con artist. But the system and the politicians who built that system and propped it up have allowed him to succeed. And you talked about this, and there's a lot of people who talk about it, is, people should do their own research. People should have the skills to do that. But I tend to think about it, and this is the way I frame it to my clients a lot of the time. Think about the median voter for a second. Okay, the median voter in Wisconsin is likely to be a single parent working a couple of jobs, trying to put food on the table, is struggling to survive, is lucky if at the end of a long work week they can watch the Wisconsin Badgers and drink a beer and just blow off a little steam with their friends. And the idea that, and Richard, I don't know you. I don't know your resume. I'm going to assume we're both probably highly educated, relatively, doing well, liberals. There's a difference between the amount of information that we consume and the way we consume it and the way that an average person does. And it doesn't mean that they're dumb. It doesn't. I just think it's that they have different circumstances to their life, and the expectation that they're going to be able to do the same type of research or have the same type of knowledge that we do is I think wrong and off kilter to me. And so median voter,
and this is where we see the world, we see the outcome that we want to be similar. I think it's a question of approach. Because if we're going to put responsibility in the laps of the politicians to do better and say better and all that, I get that. I'm not taking them off the hook. I'm saying it has to be both sides, or both entities have to be more responsible. And I'll give you the example. I'm not going to ever pass judgment on that guy, that gal that works a double shift and two double shifts, two jobs, two double shifts, if that's humanly possible. I'm not saying that it's their fault. I'm taking the word fault out of the equation and putting responsibility on, because I do think that responsibility is for those who are elected, and I think it's for those who are in the system, those of us who are regular everyday folks. Because if we can say, and as a strategist, what I would add to that, rather than take away from what you're saying, Mike, is I think it's both. It has to be both, because we've had too many years of people that have leaned into, well, I didn't know any better. And I'm sorry, but you don't get to complain about the scenario without being a participant and learning more about the scenario. I'm not that guy. I believe that we have to be willing to say that guy or that gal who's a middle-class working American that's struggling and all that, it's not their fault, but it is their responsibility to be plugged in, because we have too many sources for them to be plugged in. At the same time, Mike, and this is where your strategist strength comes in, we do have to do a better job from the elected politician running side to get them to speak more to that person. And I'm not going to deny that either side of the political spectrum could be doing a better job of it, but I don't care what the Republicans are doing. I only care what the Democrats are doing and want them to do a better job. Does that make sense?
Right. No, it does, and I don't disagree with you. I just spend a lot of time thinking about, and there are a ton of voters like this. They voted for Obama in 2008, and they voted for Obama in 2012, and then they voted for Trump in 2016, and then they voted for Biden in 2020, and then they went back to Trump in 2024. That is a profile of a voter who is desperate for change and who is struggling to survive and isn't able to figure out which party is going to help them.
But if they didn't vote for but Mike, if they didn't vote for Trump in 2020, there was a reason that they didn't vote for him, and that was because Biden and Harris are going to do a better job. So to then not vote for the people, the system, the group that was doing a better job, to vote for the guy that failed you the time before, that doesn't make any sense. That's where the responsibility of the voter, irrespective of statistics and research, you got to stop and go, wait a minute, hold on a second. This guy I didn't vote for last time because he failed me. I'm going to vote for him again because these people failed me greater? The Biden-Harris administration didn't fail the American people greater than Trump did in his 4 years. That's a fact.
So I think that we can say that that's a fact. I think that was something that you and I agree on, but I don't think it's something that the broader American people believe on. And I think we have to acknowledge the fact that Joe Biden's approval rating out the door was about as bad as George W. Bush's out the door in 2008. It was bad. And again, I love Joe Biden. I think he did a lot more right than he did wrong. I think they made a lot of political mistakes, and I think his age caught up to him in a way that made it harder for him to communicate.
How does a person get to? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, because I'm going to get there. I think I know the question you're going to ask me. Like, how does a person get to, okay, I'm mad at Joe Biden, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump? Because Andrew Yang, of all people, actually had this quote shortly after the election, and people made fun of him, but I think it's right. If you give people two choices, they're going to pick one, even if the two choices are crappy choices. And so always, and this is just basic fundamental political science and theory, people are going to vote out the party in power when they're mad. Always. And we were the party in power. We were the party that was defending the system. We were the party that was in charge. And so they turned to a madman because that was the only other option that they had. Yeah, and that's continue with what I like now that isn't working, or I go back to a madman, and at least with the madman, I have a chance of change. And I understand that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all, but I understand it from a median voter perspective.
I agree with you. And, well, let me say this. It's not that we disagree. It's, and I don't want to get into that philosophical part of it. I want to get down to the brass tacks. People made a bad decision.
That's also okay if we disagree.
No. And trust me, I can be highly disagreeable, but the point is, it's to what end? And I think that for all of us to say that, to go back and vote for the madman, there's a dysfunction in the people to make the decision to do that. Because if they're trying to find a way out, and just break it down, they voted no for the madman and said, I can't do that this time. And mathematically, this is where I see the responsibility in large part. Yeah, we can throw the media into this in another conversation, but we also have to throw in the responsibility of the citizens and the voters, because they said the madman didn't work for me. I'm going to do something different. Now I'm going to go back to the madman. There's a little bit of craziness in that. There's a little bit, and that's not the fault of the politicians. That's the lack of responsibility and cogency of Americans. And I'll be honest with you, if that wasn't true, let's just break it down in terms of cultural demographics. Black folks did not change this last election. White American voters did. You know the numbers. The peel off of the few black men and Hispanic men isn't what really made the difference in this election.
I would actually disagree with you there.
You think that white women voters staying at mid-50s didn't have a major impact?
Well, here's the way I would frame it. Like, Trump was able to win a second term with a different coalition that elected him in 2016. We lost because we lost a ton of voters amongst Gen Z voters. We lost a ton of voters amongst Hispanic men and black men. And we also had erosion in black women. Now, not a ton, but we still had that erosion. Kamala Harris did better with white men than Joe Biden and Barack Obama, just by a percentage point, not by a ton, but just by a little bit. She gained with white men and lost with other communities. And so the Democratic Party has to look in the mirror and go, hey, we've been taking advantage of some of these margins we get with communities of color. And that's why we lost, because we lost that erosion. I mean, Donald Trump has gaslit everybody into believing that he had like a giant, massive win. He won by like 180,000 votes in 3 swing states. It was that close.
But who's furthered his message about the gaslighting? Who furthered his message about what entity furthered the message about the gaslighting?
I'm sorry, say that again? You're breaking up a little bit.
What entity in our country forwarded the message, strengthened the message of the gaslighting?
What entity is pushing the message of the gaslighting?
Right.
Right. I mean, it's Donald Trump. I mean, Trump and the Republican Party and the right wing have spent the mainstream
media did not do their job.
I think the mainstream media played along in that, but I think we also have to stop relying on the mainstream media to do our jobs for us because they're not very good.
And that's where I go back to say personal responsibility. You can't get away from that. There's no way a 30-year-old person with a college degree can get away responsibly from their responsibility. There's no way. I'm never going to believe that and go, well, because the Democratic Party didn't do a good enough job of reaching out to that group of people, but they said, I'm going to vote for the madman again. There's just no way a person that's thinking with all of their brain power, whether they're 32 or 62, can go, I'm going to go back to that. Unless there's something dysfunctional or such a huge dissatisfaction that they are willing to risk it all. And the numbers today in the market are going to bear that out. They chose to roll the dice when it was right in front of them, Mike. It was right in front of people.
But keep in mind, and you just said something interesting to me, which is like, someone who has a college degree should be able to make the same, determinations that I did, or should be able to get to do the same fact checking that I did. We're actually at a point where let's just focus on Gen Z, folks under 30 right now. There is a degradation in the number of people who are going to college because they financially and economically can't afford it, and the loan payments are so horrible that people are avoiding doing it. And right now, it's having a disproportionate impact on young men than young women. For every 2 women that are graduating from college right now, we're only graduating 1 man. And so we have this ascent of women, which is good, and we shouldn't do anything to get in the way of that. But we're failing young men. And so then young men get caught up in this realm of like, I can't afford to go to college. I can't get a good job. I don't know how to get a mate. And then they start going down this rabbit hole of Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate and these horrible right-wing influencers, which immediately gets them into right-wing politics. So like a generational failure from the Democratic and Republican establishment has let down all of these young men. And so now they're moving towards this, horrible version of masculinity. They're moving towards this horrible version of our politics. And if you want to get back to a place where there's some rationality and commonality in our politics, and I know we've gotten way off of talking about tariffs now, we're just talking about the root cause of some of this stuff. But, we have to bring a lot of young men back into the fold and make them feel like they have a stake in the society as it exists today.
Well, I would stop you there. I would stop you there to say we have to bring a lot of young people in, because what you just said is part of the reason that there can be a disconnect. I mean, realistically, we got to wrap up the show, and that's why we have you on. It's young voters, period, because young men have to be. We can't just treat young men like, okay, they're the next, we've got to treat them differently or more special than young women. That's where we go wrong with messaging and thought process about the future. We got to treat all the people with the understanding that they've got a stake in this. I just believe that, and if we don't, that's where we miss so oftentimes, is that we go after these segmented groups rather than saying it's got to be a universal message, and inside of that message, tariffs are going to hurt you.
Well, and forget the message for a second. We actually have to deliver for people, because my chief critique of the Democratic Party right now, and an establishment that I am a card-carrying member of and as guilty as anyone of, we've spent, like you just talked about, making everybody feel special, making everybody feel like they have a stake in this. We've spent a lot of time doing that with historically disenfranchised communities, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should keep doing that. We should. Okay, women, communities of color, LGBTQ, et cetera. But we have not done a good job of putting a seat at the table for white men. And every single election that I've ever worked, I can hear myself getting played out. Every single election, we wonder why we lose them. It's because we have nothing to offer them, and we need to start offering them something. We want them to be part of the coalition.
I think the reality is they've been offered something all along, so they need to understand what they've been offered and maximize it. So, Mike Nellis, always good to have you. Good to have the conversation. Thanks for being with us this morning. Guys, we're going to wrap up the show. Mike, thanks for being with us. We'll talk with you soon. 773-763-9270 is always our number. And what do I say? Take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
With Amazon Business, smart business buying tools enable buyers to find and purchase items fast. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Mahaya Panjwani. Asian markets are falling as President Trump's tariffs roll global trade. At a news conference,